All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome back to another episode from Modern Day Prophets. I'm Dustin Wheeler, your host. And today I have a very special young lady who I happened to come across in a challenge that I got invited to. And Rebecca, maybe you can talk a little bit about that too. I haven't been participating in that yet because I'm involved in a couple other challenges. But I came across her story and her message really inspired me, and I definitely wanted to know more about how she started this journey and just her experiences as she's been going through this journey and what that means to her. So I'm going to introduce Rebecca now, and go ahead, Rebecca, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity. Um, Hi, I'm Rebecca Reed. Uh, I am a mission minded musician. That's kind of my thing. I started my journey, I feel like, when I was 5, when I started growing my passion for music. That's really where my story started. I started learning piano at the age of 5, and later on, at the age of 12, I started learning violin. And I realized very quickly, oh, this is what I want to do. I had another thing happen in my life. I I got sick at the age of 14 and developed chronic illness, several chronic illnesses actually, that worked hand in hand to the point where I am officially disabled. Um, and after the processing and the diagnosis and all of that, and after living through what that means to be one day normal, I guess what you can say, and then the next day, suddenly there's limits that I have on my life. I realized that another passion that I have is to show people how capable they are despite their disabilities, despite their disadvantages. I want to give people the voice and the hope that I needed, that I found through other things. Thankfully, my person who I spoke into my life, my hope was through my faith and my mother, who is my hero.
Nice.
Um, but she gave me the tools that I needed to pick myself back up. And I want to do the same on a broader scale. I want to give people the tools to handle their disability in a way that means that they're not unable, they're not incapable. I my motto that I've come up with is disabled does not mean unable. And
That's,
I feel
that's
like
pretty incredible.
I feel like for a lot of people with disabilities that I've seen, most through personal connections, there's a mindset that is in, that's put into people's minds and is reinforced in some instances that just be you're disabled, you're in a wheelchair. Sometimes some people are in a wheelchair. I was part-time in a wheelchair before I had the right treatment. um, the things that you need to have as a disabled person can sometimes make you feel like you're just that's it, that's your limit. And I want to show that through my testimony and through just living it, that you can do whatever you want to do. You can do whatever you set your mind to. You can follow your dreams and your passions like I am.
Now how old are you?
I'm 19. I'm going on 20 this year.
Okay, so I just want to let the audience know that too, is that um this is something that you said that this started happening to you when you were 14, and in within 5 years of this, you have completely changed your story, completely changed and maybe it's not changed, but you've really stepped into your capabilities and that bigger vision that you have for yourself. Other than, I guess, the limitations that were immediately put on you, did you put those on yourself first?
That's a good question. I think I think it was a good mixture of suddenly my life has changed forever and suddenly my mindset has changed. I think that mindset was self-inflicted but reinforced
Yeah.
through the circles that I was in at the time.
Okay.
Was I would I would like to say it was me,
Hmm.
but in instances there was times like that's also what I want to do is to spread awareness to people who don't have disabilities, who don't know about it, who don't know what it's like, so that they know we're normal people just like you. We are able to do what we do. It's just going to look different.
Yeah.
After
Well,
some time.
and I think one of the great things that you're doing is, we talk about this normal, right? We talk
Mhm.
about these words, and I can tell even when you say it, disabled is not a word that you like. And I agree with that. It's not a word that I really like either, because even in that word, it imposes limitation.
Exactly.
And I like how you're very intentional with changing that to maybe disadvantage, and just going through using words that are more helpful,
Yes.
because
Yes.
that's how we have to build that story, is we have to use these stories and these words that are more helpful to ourselves.
Yes. We have to change the dynamic. We have to change the language because there's a connotation that can be put on yourself with the word disabled.
So what was the first thing that you remember where you really broke through one of those self-imposed limitations?
Well, the first breakthrough that I had was again, my mom helped me out of that when I was in a really dark place. I was not taking care of myself like I should have because, frankly, I was really depressed. It was my life had changed,
Mhm.
and I wasn't really an active person, but I all of a sudden couldn't be active like I used to be. And there was just things that, for the first time in my life, I had to be told no from the people who love me and who want to take care of me. And my first breakthrough was after I went my first week without having to be woken up and be carted around in a wheelchair. I was like, oh, I can do this. It wasn't a big breakthrough, and it wasn't, I feel like, the breakthrough that caused me to want to start this mission, but it was the beginning. It was the beginning of figuring out that I can do anything I want to do. And, the limitations that I have, I can work around those limitations. I can take care of myself and continue to push myself at the same time.
Well, and I think that you said something really important, and I, it's not about how big the breakthroughs are. The
Mhm.
breakthroughs are breakthroughs, and anything that opens up that third way. And I do a lot of coaching with people, and when I talk to people, when I see them struggling the most is when they've set a duality for themselves, when they're trying
Mhm.
to live in either this or that, and there's no third
Mhm.
option. So whatever their story is, it's about creating that third way, that breakthrough, that different path that you can take. And I think some of the most important breakthroughs we have is our very next step. It's that
Mhm.
starting. It's that reinforcement that yes, you can, and that's a huge breakthrough.
Mhm. Yes, the first step, that's the first, I like to think that the first step, it's never going to look as big as it will later, but the first step is the most important step, and after that first step that you take, any step, no matter how small, it could be mine was a baby step. That baby step meant everything.
Yeah. Speaking of baby steps, I just thought of something, and I use this story a lot for people, and I can only imagine if I would have been in this place and having been told I was I was going to be confined to a wheelchair, or I couldn't do something with the way that I was feeling. And I remember standing in my kitchen, and I had this anxiety hit me and this fear hit me that it literally just crippled me in the place I was standing. And I felt like I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. I was completely unsure of everything. And the way that I said it in my mind was to take that next step. Like I could physically take that next step. And I took about 10 steps to the living room where sat down and I started meditating. And I will tell people those 10 steps, they may have seemed very small from the outside, but those 10 steps to me was like crossing a huge ravine in every single step because of where I was at the time.
Yes, I like that because also literal steps.
You
I
do literal steps.
Yes.
Well, and so going through this story, like how have you filled your cup? Because in order to have the strength and the courage that you do and the confidence that you're building, it's building it, right? And so how do you find those inspirations, and where do you find those things that inspire you, that help fill your cup to be able to want to stand up and help other people?
Mm. Where I find my inspiration is the strong people that I see in my life. I'm going to talk a lot about my mom because
Mhm.
she's literally she's the strongest person I know, and yeah, she's the one of the biggest inspirations to me. I take inspiration from the people who I see, who I know that they went through a lot of crap and they're living now. They're living they're finding their fulfillment. I find inspiration through my faith. I believe that we all have a purpose, and I feel I know that I'm finding my purpose, so that drives me. Um, I find my inspiration through just living and loving and doing what I love.
That's incredible. And you said that you play the piano and the violin.
This
Okay. And you've been playing that. You said you've been playing the piano since you were 5.
Yes.
Is that something that you do daily, or is that something, yeah, daily?
Yes, I'm going to college for it.
Okay. Okay. Now tell us a little bit about how you handle um, when people challenge you with disabled, or when people try and give you an opinion about how your story should be. Like, how do you handle that?
Oh wow, that's really relevant. I have had a lot of people have I've learned in life that people have the greatest, most radical opinions, mostly when they have not lived it. And a lot of people who are coming from a place of love, well-meaning people, have um, in the past made me feel that disabled, and they didn't mean to. Um, it was the people who knew me before, like there was the before Rebecca,
Okay.
where normal, and then after that, when I got sick, after I was labeled as disabled, I was treated differently. The I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
Oh no, that's okay. You were answering it as far as when somebody reflects their story of disabled onto
Oh,
you, like
yeah,
how do you handle that? And it sounds like people have reflected that and were afraid to let
yeah,
your old self go.
yes, definitely. There was a lot of people who were speaking from their personal beliefs, just from this is one of the biggest reasons why I feel driven to spread awareness, is because the people in my life who have taken on that role of well-meaning but not doing well, um, they just don't know. People who were like that, they didn't know. They were just speaking from what they knew, which was, in some circles, if you're sick, you can you have to do something about it. You can help it. Well, that was out of my control.
Yeah.
And other people, if you're sick, then that means um, that you're not faithful enough, or for some reason I'm being punished. I have learned. I have for myself. I've figured out that I I've chosen to take on who I am. I've chosen to embrace this part of me because without this, I would not be who I am today. Without this thorn in my side, without this unique challenge, with this unique opportunity, I would not be able to speak to the people that I can today. I have a broader scope. I can have a broader scope of who I reach simply because I've lived it before and I understand.
Well, you dropped just so many truth bombs in that. First off, because I don't want this to go unnoticed, because you said something that had a really profound effect on me, is people having an opinion about your well-being who wasn't well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I think that that is huge. I think that that is huge because if you've ever listened to or know of Brene Brown at all, she talks about the man in the arena.
Mm-hmm.
And and so the people that are offering that opinion of well-being when they themselves are not well, I think that that's the critic. I think
Yes.
that that's the critic in our lives. And just the way that you said that was just so profound and just shows that you have not only taken these limitations, like just the way that you speak intentionally shows how much you've grown to know yourself and reflected on this and how much work you have done on this. Like you are to me speaking like a wise sage right now. And I want people to understand this because there are such like you're speaking such good words of wisdom right now. And this is going to happen. Like this isn't just happening to you because people have an opinion about you being disabled. Every single person is going to have an opinion in your life. Every
Mm-hmm.
single person is going to have an opinion in my life. And one thing that I think that you've really done well is you recognize that you're like, and not that people don't have front row seats, right? Because your mom has got a front row seat and and that's something that's been earned, and whoever else has those front row seats in your life, like that, your opinion and those people that you surround yourself with, that you choose to surround yourself with, are all that matters.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's huge. I really, really want the audience to listen to that and go back. And if you need to listen to it again, listen to what she just said. Like listen to what she just said.
Yes. That has
But
been.
I really am I just think that you're amazing and I'm so impressed. I think one of the things I'm a little bit of an older generation, and even the generation a little older than me, where I see their perspective going and what story they're telling themselves, and especially right now when fear is being amplified.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last statistic I read is like 70% of people feel scared about the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's people like you that are really going to bring a light to bringing us together and bringing us together in humanity in a new way that we haven't experienced. So it really also gives me a lot of hope that you have done so much work, because that you're always going to do that, no matter what life throws at you. You're always going to do that. And that, just to me, like, that's one of the biggest gifts I feel like we have as humans right now, is this light that's coming through people, and the permission that they're giving themselves to express it.
Yes, I definitely feel the same. I'm a firm believer that people's true nature comes out in a time of crisis,
Yeah.
and with all of the crap show that's been going on in certain circles, I have seen the most hope, the most connection, um the most human connection that I have seen in my lifetime, and it's over online. It's through
Right.
web, but people even more than ever are looking to be connected to each other.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Well, case in point, as of yesterday, I didn't know you,
yeah,
and going through and getting invited to something that would, help me grow. I came across your videos and your story, and now we're connected. And then whoever this story reaches, I really feel like people, when they're at that point before taking that step, when they're facing that fear, when it gets uncomfortable, it's not a matter of if it's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable.
mhm,
Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's the scariest thing you've ever been through, and you still face it, and you decide to take that step anyway.
yes,
And I see so many people that are trying to control and avoid that uncomfortable step. And it's just, it's like
mhm,
skirting it and running around it. And it's actually the way through.
mhm,
And
yes,
the way through could be multiple ways, but it's the way through it, not the way around it.
yes. Where when you when you allow yourself to be uncomfortable, whatever you choose to do with it, that's how you will grow. You can choose to, you could, there's like, I feel like three options. You can choose to go around it and there's no opportunity for growth. You can choose to go through it and whatever, depending on the situation, take the route that will harden you and it is just generally not growing as a better person
Okay.
or hardened person.
Mhm.
Or you can choose to allow that experience to change you and choose to take away the lesson in it and to grow stronger because of it and soften yourself to other people who are going through the same. I feel,
So I've spent a lot of time in the last year Uber and Lyft driving and having a lot of
Mhm,
conversations with people and really deep, heartfelt connection with people. And I had one of my passengers recommend the book, Jesus in Blue Jeans. And one of the things that I love about that book, and I love the entire book. It's absolutely incredible. But one passage that really stuck out to me was where humans are right now with a lot of areas in their life is we've carried the wrong message forward. We've carried the wrong lesson forward.
mhm,
And so I think that this is our greatest opportunity right now, that this is our greatest possibility that we have. And what you just, to completely tie into what you just said, it's carrying that lesson, learning that lesson from it. And it's through that way when we learn, and for me, I don't want to get caught up in the right or the wrong or anything like that, but I think that there's a choice that's most truest to our nature, and
mhm,
that's love. And there's choices that take us further away from that. So
mhm,
when I say right lesson or right message, to me, that's always the lesson that's in our most truest, most authentic way.
mhm,
And that's love. And
mhm,
I think that that's the world that we're born into. And then through our journey in this life, that's what we're trying to find. That's what we're going back to.
Definitely.
So when you say that there was a lot of people that didn't they weren't good at letting the old you go, they weren't maybe ready for the new you, have you completely changed the people that you used to be around? I mean, has that been dramatic as you kind of up your level of consciousness? I mean, have the people around you changed?
Well, before the old me, I've always been academically driven, and I've always been driven to music, especially around that age. At 14, I was pushing and pushing myself musically. I was
Okay.
growing at that time. I I was a loner,
Okay.
so I didn't have much friends. I didn't find myself in much circles. My family, um, the I have not changed who I've been around, but I have changed the perspective of those I've been around. And the people who know me now, who know the new me, um yeah, they I've changed a lot. I've definitely feel and I've been it's been told to me that I have changed a lot of opinions about what people feel about about struggle, and about um just just struggle. I think that struggle can be a good thing, and it's not a punishment, it is an opportunity.
That's a fantastic realization. That opens up a lot of unlimit for your mind and your capabilities.
Mhm.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting when you start looking through these things, how much we do put these self-imposed prisons on ourselves.
Mhm.
And we do that in all of our walks of life. All of us do that, none of us are separate from that. It's just about our ability and the tools that we have and what we can learn on how to give ourselves the keys to those cages.
Mhm.
For me personally, I know when I feel like I woke up in my life and had breakthroughs, what I had to go to was gratitude. And that was a practice that I had to do every single day, every single moment that I was scared, every single time I was in the face of fear, I had to go to gratitude.
Mhm.
Um, when all of this happened to you, would you say that part of was there any of that you would have said was the worst days of your life?
Yes, I firmly believe that at 3 points in my life, I was actually dying.
Okay.
That that had a profound impact on how I viewed life, and
Okay.
how I viewed, um, my family, both blood and chosen, and that's shaped me after being told that I'm not gonna live to the age of 18, and then living past that. And I'm about to be 20 this year, and I'm going to college, and I'm out of my wheelchair, and I'm living. After those dark moments it was really, I yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It I know what suffering is like
Yeah.
in shape and form, almost every shape and form, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and that's really, I've grown up in appreciation for life because of that. Because now all of a sudden, I have I have a life to live, and not many people get to that understanding of
Yeah.
how precious life is, and how impactful you can be while you're living it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and that seems to be the true message. I feel like that's the right lesson forward. That's the right message forward. And the more people that I talk to, the more people that I interview that have had those dark moments, that know what suffering is. And I know what you're talking about. It's like that
Mhm.
dark night of the soul when you're just like you have to face death.
Mhm.
And it's that changing that story into appreciation. it's
Yes.
it's that, and it's that new filter, that new perspective, and the understanding that there's never anything that's guaranteed.
Right.
Life is not guaranteed. It in right now, especially with what's going on in the world, like this really forced a lot of people to see that.
Mhm.
So in ways that you've already been through, in ways, that's why I think that something like this happening really gave the opportunity for the light to come through.
Mhm.
Because not to say that this hasn't been rough on you or it hasn't been impacted you, because it has everybody, but you've also prepared yourself for moments just like this.
Yes, I definitely believe. I I am thankful and I'm hopeful for the newfound appreciation and the preciousness of human connection that people will find.
Yeah, human connection is pretty amazing.
Mhm.
I'm such a science geek. I listen to like Joe Dispenza, and when I start talking about science and spiritual and how that's being like proven and put together and everything, like
Yes.
I get so excited because science is starting to prove like what I've always known in my heart, a language
Mhm.
that I have always been able to speak. Like science is
Mhm.
actually starting to prove that now, and I'm like, yes, like
Yeah,
it's
the
about
sixth
time.
sense intuition is like,
Yeah.
well, we already knew that because that's what we've been saying.
Well, absolutely. And so and I know personally, I've been looked at in such a way in my life of being crazy, being
Mhm.
too sensitive, being too loving, being too open, being too naive, being
Mhm.
too innocent, like all of those things, because like I said, this is something that I've known in my heart I, all along. But when
Mhm.
somebody asks, well, how prove it? Prove it. I'm like, I don't know. I just know. Like I know. And now
Yeah.
science is starting to prove it. I feel very vindicated.
Yeah, and I thought when I've been not, I've never been directly, well, I've been directly asked that several times. Mostly it's indirect, and you just know.
Yeah.
Well, do you like that people give you that look when
Yeah.
you about your feeling and your intuition and that spiritual connection? And I the only way I've known to show them is just living an example.
Yeah. Well, girl, you just dropped another huge truth bomb. Like that is literally the only thing that you have control over.
Hmm. Yes.
Like, and that shows in everything that you do. And I
Hmm.
only watched a couple of minutes of your videos, but I could see that like I could see all of the work before that. I could see all of the daily practice that you do, and not just in achievement, that inner finding that space within you and carrying that light forward. Like that, it shine, like it's something I noticed right away, and I think that other people are going to notice that too. And I think as you help and serve and connect with more and more people, I also like you're just going to create a brighter light, and I think that that's really amazing. So what would you say right now is your biggest value? Like what gets you through the tough moments right now?
Mm. Get me through the tough moments. Hope,
Hope.
hope, hope that even though I know that the world will never be the same again for me or for the world in general, there's the hope that there's people, including me and people like me out there,
Mhm.
and people like you out there who are working actively, are going out there actively to make the world a better place. And there's always, the sun is going to rise another day. And even if it doesn't, there's still the hope that what we have done meant something and it reached somebody.
That's very well put. That's very well put. So, you being 19, when did you graduate? When did you graduate high school?
28, July of 2018.
Okay, so 2 years ago. Okay. So I've been asking everybody, I've been asking everybody this because I've been watching a lot of graduation speeches from the
Mhm.
past couple of years, and actors that go back and speak to their classes, and not just in high school. But if you were giving a graduation speech right now and you could give like just one thing that just they could wake up to, like, what would that be?
One thing that could what?
Yeah, like one thing that could wake them up, like one thing
Wake
that
them
could help, prepare them for this future of uncertainty, and prepare them for when they face their fears.
up. The one thing that I could tell people to hmm, explore,
Explore.
look for what you like, look for what you dislike. I think that the most crucial time in the life of a young adult is right after they graduate or their senior year of high school. I think that is the time that young people need to take to explore and to start looking. If you don't already know what you want to do, if you don't already know what your passion is, then explore, look for what you find what you like, find what you don't like. That that's been a journey that I've been on. Definitely is find. It's just as important to find what you don't like as much as you do like, because that is how you find yourself. That's how you learn about yourself.
Well, and I want to take that, whoever is listening, in whatever age you are at, wherever you are in life, I want you to listen to that as well, because through your steps, you will have many passions. Through your steps, you may even have multiple purposes. Like, that's okay, but it's the exploration and finding them and being able to take steps towards them, and not just seeing them but experiencing them.
Yes, and that takes a lot of bravery. I think that takes a lot of putting yourself out there, and
Yeah.
it can be hard. Like I know when in my senior year, I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew that I had a passion for music. I knew
Mhm.
this passion about my mission, but I had no idea how it was going to be thrown together. I had no idea what opportunities I could have. I didn't even know I live in a single parent household with my mother,
Okay.
living off of child support. I
Mhm.
didn't know that I was going to be able to go get an education like I wanted to. And now that I have it, I realized that that takes a lot of courage just to try. It's the first step again. First step is the most crucial step. The first step is always taken with a little bit of courage.
Well, and that's the one that you can take,
Mm-hmm.
no matter where you are. I have this beautiful quote that I love by Rumi. It's, step out on the way and the way appears.
Mm-hmm.
And I that has always been true in my life. And it's taking, and what you guys, listen to this today, because you're not gonna know the way. Like, you are not gonna know
No.
how it all comes together. That's okay. That it's actually how it is supposed to be, because if you knew how it was going to be, it would be more of the same. And your
Mm-hmm.
purpose and your passion and your spirit is touching what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's touching beyond what you think that you know. It's going beyond the ego, and those things come
Mm-hmm.
together in ways that we don't have design to. Like,
Right.
what we have designed to is we have designed to taking that first step in faith.
And yeah, and being able to fail with grace and
Yeah.
taking those failures. I know personally I had this huge fear in high school of failure.
Hmm.
I've always been a perfectionist, so failure was a personal failure always.
Yeah.
But now I've learned that's where you find the lesson.
Yeah.
That's just another form of obstacle that you can overcome. You can choose to overcome it, or you can choose.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that that's too where we learn to be adaptable, where we can learn to,
Mhm.
where we run into a wall, it's not necessarily scratching the whole direction. Like, maybe we just needed to be a couple inches over, maybe we just needed to pivot a little bit and not just totally give up. So
Mhm.
there's a lot that's spoken about the value of the 1%.
Mhm.
People are like, oh, I can't do it because it's so far out here. I can't do it because it's so big. I can't do this. And what they don't realize is that, 1% every single day gets you there.
Yes, yes, that is so true. And
And we need to have a deeper discussion if you're not willing to put 1% towards your life and
right.
towards your passion and
Mhm.
towards discovering what your purpose is. So I
Mhm.
think, one of my big missions is getting new education into our systems and getting,
Mhm.
teaching perspective as a class, and how to change it and how to look at things differently in small
Mhm.
ways that all of us can understand. So whether you're
Mhm.
sitting in kindergarten or whether you're sitting at 60, you can relate to what it means, and you can use it as a practice instead of these things that we think that we either have or we don't.
Mhm.
We just don't
Yes.
teach to build them.
Right. Teaching the way to critical thinking,
Yeah.
teaching you to think for yourself, to find. I feel like I also um, feel pretty strongly about the education system and the reforms that need to be taken. That's not my mission, but I've seen firsthand what that means in these kids graduating, and they don't know. They know what they've learned off of tests. They know what they've learned enough to get through college classes, but they don't know what they believe. They
Yeah.
don't know what other people believe. They don't know how to understand a different perspective from what they've been taught and what they've been exposed to. And
Yeah.
that not knowing has it can cause a big rift between people
Yeah.
connecting with each other and learning to love each other.
Yeah. Well,
There's a
it
love.
actually, it keeps us disconnected.
Hmm.
Bottom line, it keeps us disconnected, and that is something that is, because it's not just generational anymore.
Mm-mm.
And that's where it's really being highlighted for me, is that it's not just generational anymore, and it's all of us. It's all of us. We've
Hmm.
done a disservice for all of us in the way that we've allowed our education to continue. And I don't
Hmm.
care if that's education in our business. I don't care if that's education in our families. I don't care if that's education in our
Hmm.
schools. It's the how we have been educating. We need to innovate, and we need to step it
Hmm. And
up.
apply it to every factor of life, not just in schools.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the principles are all the same.
Hmm.
And, one of the big things that I really get in with people about is the values and the principles, because you can see somebody, their light shines when they have values,
Hmm.
and you can see them. And to me, that is them being their authentic selves.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that everybody values have to be the same, but they know what they are, and they know that they live in those, and those are their guideposts through
Hmm.
this.
They're living their truth.
Yeah, they're living their truth. And I just think it's going to be, people like you and people like me, and like you said, and in this audience, like, I hope that if you're listening to this, that it gives you permission to take some accountability in facing your fears, and not putting any blame on anything or anybody, just accepting that you're sitting where you are, you're standing where you are right now, and looking at it in a way that's empowering to you,
Mhm.
and looking at it in a way that's going to help you take that first step. Because the world needs role models, man. The world needs people that are living that example, not professing it,
Yes.
that are practicing it, every day. And that's the common denominator. I can only imagine, as Brene Brown has done all her research on the wholehearted.
Mhm.
That's what I call this. That's what I call, people like you and me, and people that have a mission, and, people that are finding that authentic expression, that wholehearted. And
Mhm.
there are ways to that pathway. And it seems like you are on your pathway, girl.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Long journey.
what do you have coming up? Like, tell me something that you're really excited for, that you have coming up, or that you've just really been excited about as you go through this. I know you must have signed up for this challenge. What is that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've been inspired just yesterday by the challenge. After you contacted me, I was inspired to open up my official Facebook page for um, my mission minded musician business, and I made an Instagram account too, and that was something that I've been putting off. My mother, she's an independent business owner. She works with people who start up their businesses, so that's what she did. She helped me, and she's been trying to push me because she knows that's what I need to do. But I only yesterday realized, okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where I do it. I feel comfortable. Well, I feel uncomfortable enough now. I have this fire in me. So let's do something about it finally.
Yeah.
So
Well, congratulations.
yeah,
Congratulations on doing that. Well, in your stories that you were talking about too, you said, I can't wait for that next step, or I can't wait for that first step. And
yes,
what I wanted to, and I put a comment on there, but what I wanted to show you and tell you is, like, you being in front of that video, you putting yourself out there to thousands of people that are in that group, like, that was a next step. Like, that was the next step, man. Some people are terrified to do that. So
yes,
just, and also recognizing, especially coming from a place where you may have a tendency for that perfection. You may have a tendency, we wrestle with those stories first, but remembering, like, it's like the steps along the way and the celebrations along the way too. And
yes.
not only that, not only did you knock out 2 videos, and you got your Facebook page done.
Right. Yeah. I tend to be my worst critic.
Oh
As
yeah. Well, in the
yeah.
pursuit of perfection, that keeps us disconnected, and that's, it's a story that a lot of creative people have, um,
Mhm.
just by beliefs that we've adopted, and the way that we grew up, whatever. But it's that pursuit of perfection that will actually keep us away from everything that we want. And it's not that you don't ever go to that story. You go to that story first, but you start creating another story, so you just don't stay there as long. So you give
Yes.
yourself more grace through it, and realize
Yes.
there is no such thing as perfection.
Yes. I wanted to thank you for that very reason. Because I was like, okay, yeah, she's right. She's right. Taking that step. It just it feels already so much bigger than myself, and that feeling is overwhelming, but that's the purpose of it. But the calling of it is it's supposed to be bigger than me. It's supposed to be reaching out. it's supposed to have outreach.
Yeah. Well, and I want to bring up something else. I don't know if you've ever heard of a man called Wayne Dyer. He was very much included. They call him the father of motivation.
Mm.
But he studied the Tao and just was involved in like the law of attraction and all of these things. He just had this way of looking at life that was incredible. And if he was sitting here right now, I think that he would point out the fact that you manifested me in this interview in your life by taking that first step in faith.
Yes.
So that's also this is your sign that look at what you can manifest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, I don't know the outreach because some of my outreach is 2 people, some of my outreach is 200 people, some of my outreach is 2,000 people. But what you manifested is by you taking those simple steps of action and you having a clear intention of wanting more outreach and not just saying it, you showed up for it.
Mm-hmm.
Look what happened. Then somebody contacted you who had a podcast, who's got a little bit more outreach to do this, and I think that that's something that you got to take notice of, because that's the universe saying, we believe in you because you believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you, Dustin. I need
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Well, I just thought, I mean, it just channeled through me too. Like that, I was like, you know what? You manifested this. Now, in different ways, I manifested you. And you're my universal confirmation that I'm showing up for the world in the way that I want to.
Yes.
And I think and when we can look at life and through filters of that and perspectives of that, there's just no limitations. There just really isn't. Well, my dear, first off, I would love to give your mom a big shout out too for just everything that she went through in raising you and going through, because I really feel like there's moms get a bad rap because that's a difficult job. Like that's a very, 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 very difficult job, and she did such a beautiful job helping raise you and helping you come to these beautiful perspectives and beautiful beliefs that you have. You can very much see how you own them and you've created them, but through your mother being a beautiful role model and somebody like I just want to take a moment of appreciation for her, and just have her just keep being the beautiful light that she is for you too. And then second of all, so what are you, so you got your page done, like how can we help support you?
Well, I will be active on this new page. My page is you can go on Facebook to Rebecca Merritt Music or at Rebecca Merritt Music on Facebook, and my Instagram is uh, uh, music musician on a mission at musician on a mission. Um, that is my platform. Those are my platforms that I'm using. I will be doing everything from uploading my accomplishments. Most of them will be through my school. I will be doing events and live streams. I've decided to start doing that. I did a live stream over Easter, and I have ideas about future live streams, possibly themed. I have a Disney themed live stream that
Okay.
I might do playing piano.
Okay. So right now the best way that we can support you is going to your page, giving you some like and love on your social media. And I'll make sure, if you can send me that information too, I'll make sure that I include that in the introduction on the podcast so people know where the best way is to get directed towards you as well.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and um it sounds like you've got a lot of really like amazing things that you're going to be opening up to and that you're going to be, pursuing. And
Mhm.
I think I would like to ask as kind of the final question, because so often we try and resist the negative thoughts that we have in our, in our life. And so often like we try and skirt those, whether it's
Mhm.
envy, whether it's judgment, whether it's expectation. Like facing those things in ourselves doesn't always feel good.
Mhm.
And I what would you say to any of us who are faced with a reflection where we want to define it as disabled? Like, how could you offer us, or is there a question that you could give us to offer us another perspective when we run up against that things in ourselves where we're like, we want to call it like disabled?
The self-imposed limitations.
Mhm.
Um, that is a good question. I have, especially since this quarantine has started, I have had a lot of time to think about that. I have been um, taking this opportunity for self growth as well as community growth. And that has been something that I have worked through and um, wrestled through with myself is dealing with the self imposed limitations as well as the things that I noticed about myself that I don't like.
Mhm.
I realized that I do um, tend to shove that to the back burner because I don't want to deal with it. And I have learned, I'm still learning
Mhm.
the way to deal with that is this is going to sound repetitive.
No, say it.
It's the first step. It is taking that first step towards accepting it, but not in the way that accepting is always. I don't, when I say accepting it, don't accept it and move on and accept that, well, oh, okay, that's just me now. Accept it with the mindset that you have the ability, you are able to change that. You are able to change. You are able to pursue whatever passion you have. You are able and you can have the opportunity that you need to give yourself to take the next step and to grow. You are able.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Mhm.
Well, I just can't even thank you enough for being on here today. It has just been such a pleasure. I know that I will watch this over and over again too, because like there would be something that you said that would just resonate with me so much. I know that there were multiple things in there that I want to remind myself of. And what I want to leave the audience with today is that all of us have a unique perspective of the world. And anybody else's perspective is really none of your business. You don't have to take it personally. And that's what you don't have to accept is somebody else's perspective.
Mhm.
Get to know your perspective. And if it's a perspective where you find yourself putting limitations on your life and you find that you've imposed a lot of these mental cages that have stopped you, because that is the only thing, people, that will stop you. That is the only thing that will stop you. And when you find out in yourself and you face those times in yourself when it's a self-imposed cage, look for the key.
Mhm.
You've got the key. So look for the key and you can let yourself out of that cage, because
Mhm.
there is no such word as disabled.
Amen.
There is no word as disabled. Like that is
Mhm.
just it, that is just a self-imposed prison.
Mhm.
Well, Rebecca, I want to just wish you the best on your journey. I know I'm going to still, where you and I are going to keep in touch. I would love to do another interview with you when, a couple of months down the road, and just see how your life has progressed, and see how, see how your mission has progressed, and show the
Mm,
audience that this is a process, right?
yes, show the life behind it.
Yeah,
But thank you for
absolutely.
having me so much. I have enjoyed this opportunity immensely.
Oh, that's incredible, hon. Well, I
Yeah,
hope that you have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk
you
soon.
too. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.